The old cargo ship New Dawn moved slowly through the dark space between the stars. Its metal hull was covered with scratches and dents from years of hard work. Paint had chipped off in many places, making it look even older than its 25 years. Anyone who saw it would think it was just another worn-out cargo hauler barely worth the fuel it burned. Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the front window. His weathered face showed the lines of a man who had spent half his life in space. His gray hair was cut short, and his blue eyes held the steady look of someone who had seen both the best and worst that space had to offer. He wore a simple work uniform, nothing fancy or military-looking. "Captain, we're getting close to the Kepler system," said Amy Davis from her seat at the navigation controls. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and quick, intelligent eyes. Her fingers moved over the control panel like she had been born to fly through space. "Good. How long until we reach Haven's Rest?" Jake asked. "About 6 hours at current speed," Amy replied. She paused and looked at her instruments again. "But Captain, I'm picking up something on the sensors. There are ships ahead of us. Big ones." Jake moved to look at Amy's screen. The display showed 12 large objects moving in formation near the planet Haven's Rest. Each ship was at least 5 times bigger than the New Dawn. Their sleek, dark shapes looked dangerous even on the sensor display. "Zephyrian warships," Jake said quietly. "A whole battle fleet." From the engineering station, Sam Carter looked up from his work. He was a thick-built man in his 40s, with strong hands that could fix anything. His bald head was covered with sweat from working on the ship's systems. "Zephyrians? What are they doing way out here?" "Nothing good," said Lisa Brooks from the communications station. She was a slim woman with long black hair tied back in a ponytail. Her earpiece crackled with alien voices speaking in harsh, clicking sounds. "I'm listening to their radio traffic. They're calling this a security operation." Jake felt his jaw tighten. The Zephyrians were a warlike species that had been pushing into human space for months. They claimed they were just protecting their borders, but everyone knew they were testing Earth's strength. Their ships carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets. "Open the channel to their fleet," Jake ordered. Lisa worked at her controls. "For a moment. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Miller of the human cargo vessel New Dawn. We request safe passage through this system. We're carrying medical supplies to the colony on Haven's Rest." The answer came back in heavily accented English. The voice was cold and filled with contempt. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian 3rd Battle Fleet. You may pass, but stay away from our ships. We do not wish to be bothered by your primitive technology." Jake kept his voice level. "Understood, Admiral. We'll keep our distance." The channel closed with a sharp click. Jake looked around at his crew. They all had the same worried expression on their faces. "They're not here for security," Amy said quietly. "Look at their formation. They're getting ready to attack something." Jake studied the tactical display. Amy was right. The Zephyrian ships were arranged in a classic attack pattern. Around Haven's Rest, they were just waiting for the right moment to strike. "Lisa, can you intercept more of their communications?" Jake asked. Lisa nodded and put her hands back on her controls. Her earpiece filled with alien voices. She listened for several minutes, her face growing more worried with each passing second. "Captain," she finally said, "they're planning to attack the colony. They're waiting for us to leave the system first. They don't want any human witnesses." Sam slammed his fist on his control panel. "Those alien bastards. Haven's Rest has 50,000 people. Half of them are kids. We have to warn them," Amy said. "We're the only ones who can get word to Earth Command in time." Jake looked at the display again. 12 massive warships against one old cargo hauler. The Zephyrians had enough firepower to destroy 100 ships like the New Dawn without breaking a sweat. But 50,000 innocent people were about to die, and his crew was the only thing standing between them and destruction. "Captain," Lisa said, "I'm also picking up something else. The Zephyrians are jamming all long-range communications from the colony. Haven's Rest can't call for help. They don't even know the fleet is here." Jake felt the weight of decision settling on his shoulders. He had faced tough choices before, but never one like this. If they tried to fight, they would probably die. If they ran, an entire colony would be wiped out. He thought about his crew. Amy was brilliant but young. Sam was tough, but had a family back on Earth. Lisa was brave, but had joined the merchant service to avoid military conflict. None of them had signed up for a suicide mission against impossible odds. But Jake also thought about the children on Haven's Rest, kids who were probably playing in the colony's gardens right now, not knowing that death was hanging over them in the cold darkness of space. "Captain?" Amy asked quietly. "What are we going to do?" Jake looked at each of his crew members. He saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. They knew what he was thinking, and they were ready to follow him wherever he led them. "We're going to stop them," Jake said. Sam's eyes widened. "Captain, we're a cargo ship. They're a battle fleet. We don't stand a chance." Jake smiled for the first time since they had detected the alien ships. It was not a pleasant smile. "Sam, there's something I need to tell you all. Something I should have told you a long time ago." He walked to a control panel that looked like all the others on the bridge. But when he pressed his palm against it, the panel lit up with military-grade security codes. "The New Dawn isn't exactly what she appears to be," Jake said. "And neither am I." The crew stared at him in shock as more hidden panels began to light up around the bridge. The old cargo ship was starting to show its true face, and that face looked very different from what the Zephyrians expected. "Lisa," Jake said, "send a coded message to Earth Command. Tell them Operation Sledgehammer is about to begin." Outside the ship, the Zephyrian fleet continued its lazy patrol around Haven's Rest. Admiral Vestar barely gave the human cargo ship a second thought. After all, what could one pathetic human vessel do against the might of the Zephyrian war machine? He was about to find out. The bridge of the New Dawn transformed before the crew's eyes. Hidden panels slid open to reveal military-grade equipment that had been concealed for years. The worn cargo ship was shedding its disguise, like a snake shedding its skin. Jake Miller stood at the center of it all, no longer looking like a simple cargo captain. His posture had changed, becoming straighter and more commanding. The easygoing merchant captain was gone, replaced by someone who clearly knew how to fight. "Amy, Sam, Lisa," Jake said, his voice now carrying the authority of a military officer. "I need you to listen carefully. Everything I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels." Amy stared at the new control panels appearing around her station. "Captain, what is all this? This equipment?" "It's not civilian grade." "No, it's not," Jake replied. "The New Dawn is part of something called the Trojan Horse Program. We're not really a cargo ship. We're a weapons platform disguised as a merchant vessel." Sam's mouth fell open. "A weapons platform? But I've been working on these engines for 2 years. They're standard cargo hauler engines," Jake smiled. "Look again, Sam. Really look." Sam turned to his engineering console and began running new diagnostics. The readings that came back made his eyes go wide. These aren't cargo engines. These are military-grade fusion drives. They're running at maybe 20% of their real power. "That's right," Jake said. "And the cargo holds aren't full of medical supplies. They're full of weapons that the Zephyrians have never seen before." Lisa pulled off her earpiece and stared at Jake. "Who are you really?" "My name is Jake Miller, and I really am a ship captain, but I'm not a merchant captain. I'm a commander in Earth Defense Force Special Operations. I've been flying missions like this for 15 years. Amy's hands moved over her navigation controls, accessing new systems she had never seen before. These tactical computers, they're incredible. I can track every ship in the Zephyrian fleet and predict their movements. You're not just a navigator, Amy, Jake said. You're a tactical officer, one of the best Earth Command has ever trained. You've been running combat simulations in your sleep for the past 6 months. Amy blinked in confusion. But I don't remember any of that. Memory blocks. Jake explained. We couldn't risk the Zephyrians finding out what you really knew if they ever captured you. But now that we're going into combat, the blocks are lifting. You'll remember everything soon. The communication board in front of Lisa lit up with new frequencies and encryption codes. She stared at them for a moment, then her eyes cleared with sudden understanding. I'm not just a communications officer. I'm an intelligence specialist. I've been studying Zephyrian military tactics for years. Now you're getting it, Jake said. All of you are military personnel. We volunteered for this mission, knowing it might be our last. The Trojan Horse program puts weapons platforms in civilian disguises all over the galaxy. We're humanity's secret weapon. Sam was reading more data from his engineering station. Captain, these weapon systems? Some of this technology is theoretical. How did we build it? Earth scientists have been working on it for decades, Jake replied. Ever since we made first contact with hostile alien species, we've been developing countermeasures. The Zephyrians think they're superior to us, but they're about to learn that humans are very good at surprises. A new voice came through the ship's speakers. It was cold and professional, clearly military. Commander Miller, this is Earth Command. We've received your coded message. You are authorized to proceed with Operation Sledgehammer. Show them what humanity can do. Jake pressed a button on his command chair. Understood, Command. Beginning weapons deployment now. The ship shuddered as hidden mechanisms began to work. Along the hull, panels that had looked like standard cargo bay doors began to slide open. Inside, instead of boxes of medical supplies, were rows of sleek weapons that gleamed with deadly purpose. Railgun batteries coming online, Sam reported. These things can fire projectiles at 15% of light speed. Amy was studying the tactical display. The Zephyrians are still in attack formation around Haven's Rest. They have no idea we're a threat. That's the point, Jake said. Lisa, start jamming their communications. I don't want them coordinating an attack on us. Lisa's hands flew over her controls. Jamming frequencies active. They won't be able to talk to each other once we start shooting. The New Dawn's engines began to change their sound. The low rumble of cargo hauler drives was replaced by the high whine of military-grade fusion engines. The ship's speed increased rapidly. Hull armor deploying, Sam announced. Stealth coding is coming online too. We're going to be a lot harder to detect and even harder to hit. Jake looked at his crew. Their faces showed a mixture of fear and determination. They were remembering their training now, remembering why they had volunteered for this mission. Amy, plot an intercept course for the nearest Zephyrian destroyer, Jake ordered. Course plotted, Amy replied. We'll be in weapons range in 30 minutes. On the main display, they could see the Zephyrian fleet still moving in its lazy patrol. Pattern. The alien ships were massive and powerful, but they were also slow and overconfident. They thought they were hunting sheep, not wolves. Captain, Lisa said, I'm intercepting more alien communications. Admiral Vexstar is getting reports about our changing energy signature, but he's dismissing them. He thinks we're just having engine problems? Jake nodded. Good. The longer he underestimates us, the better our chances. The New Dawn continued to transform. Sensor arrays extended from hidden compartments. Shield generators powered up with a deep humming sound. The ship that had looked like a tired old cargo hauler was becoming something sleek and dangerous. All weapons systems ready, Sam reported. We have enough firepower to cripple their entire fleet if we use it right. Amy was running calculations on her tactical computer. Their formation has weaknesses. If we hit them from the right angle, we can take out 3 ships before they know what's happening. And after that? Jake asked. After that, we'll be in the fight of our lives, Amy replied honestly. Jake stood up from his command chair. Around him, his crew was preparing for battle. They were no longer merchant spacers trying to deliver cargo. They were Earth's hidden warriors, about to show the galaxy that humanity would not be pushed around. All right, people, Jake said. The Zephyrians think we're weak. They think we're primitive. They're about to learn that the most dangerous thing in the galaxy is a human with nothing to lose. The new dawn accelerated toward the alien fleet. Behind them, the colony of Haven's Rest continued its peaceful existence, unaware that its fate was about to be decided by 4 humans in a ship that wasn't what it seemed. Admiral Vextar was about to get the shock of his life. The new dawn streaked through space toward the Zephyrian fleet like a hunting predator. On the bridge, Jake Miller watched the tactical display as they closed the distance to their enemies. The alien ships were still moving in their lazy patrol pattern, completely unaware of the danger approaching them. 20 minutes to weapons range, Amy reported from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the tactical controls as she calculated firing solutions. The nearest destroyer is the Bone Crusher. It's separated from the main fleet by about 5,000 kilometers. Jake nodded. Perfect. We'll hit it first and use the confusion to get closer to the others. Sam was monitoring the ship's systems from his engineering station. All weapons are charged and ready. The railguns are loaded with armor-piercing rounds. These things will punch through their shields like paper. Lisa looked up from her communications console. I'm monitoring their radio traffic. They're still talking about us like we're just a broken-down cargo ship. Admiral Vextar just told his officers that we're not worth worrying about. Good, Jake said. Let them keep thinking that for a few more minutes. The new dawn's hull continued to transform as they approached the enemy fleet. The last of the fake cargo panels fell away, revealing the ship's true nature. Weapon ports opened along the sides like the eyes of a giant predator. Shield generators hummed with power. 10 minutes to weapons range, Amy announced. The Bone Crusher is turning toward us, but slowly. They think we're just changing course to avoid them. Jake studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian destroyer was huge, at least 10 times the size of the new dawn. Its dark hull was covered with weapon emplacements and armor plating. Under normal circumstances, it could destroy 100 human ships without breaking a sweat, but these weren't normal circumstances. 5 minutes to weapons range, Amy said. All targeting systems are locked on. Jake pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to engage the enemy. Remember your training and trust your equipment. We're going to show these aliens what happens when they threaten innocent people. The distance between the ships closed rapidly. The Bone Crusher grew larger on the main screen, its weapon ports beginning to glow as it prepared to fire. But it was too little, too late. Weapons range achieved, Amy announced. We have a clean shot. Jake took a deep breath. Fire. The new dawn's railguns spoke with a sound like thunder. 6 projectiles launched from the ship's hidden weapon ports, each one traveling at 15% of light speed. They covered the distance to the Bone Crusher. In less than a second, the alien ship's shields flared as the projectiles hit them. For a moment, it looked like the shields might hold. Then they collapsed in a shower of sparks and energy. The railgun. Rounds punched through the destroyer's hull like bullets through tissue paper. Direct hits, Amy shouted. The bone crusher is venting atmosphere. Its main engines are offline. On the main screen, they could see the Zephyrian destroyer tumbling out of control. Explosions erupted along its hull as internal systems failed. The ship was still alive, but it was crippled and helpless. That's impossible, Lisa said, listening to the alien communications. They can't believe we just did that. Admiral Vestar is screaming at his officers to explain how a human cargo ship destroyed one of his destroyers. Jake smiled grimly. Well, now they know we're not just a cargo ship. Amy, plot a course for the next target. The New Dawn changed direction, heading for another Zephyrian destroyer called the Star Killer. But this time, the aliens were ready. The entire fleet was turning to face the human ship, their weapons charging for battle. Incoming missiles, Amy warned. 20 of them, coming in fast. Evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. Let's see how good their targeting systems are. The New Dawn twisted and turned through space like a dancer, avoiding grasping hands. The ship's advanced maneuvering systems made it incredibly agile for its size. Most of the alien missiles missed completely, exploding harmlessly in empty space. 3 of them found their target. The ship shook as the alien warheads exploded against its shields. Warning lights flashed on the bridge as the defensive systems strained to absorb the impact. Shields at 70%, Sam reported, but they're holding. More missiles were coming, and this time there were 40 of them. The Zephyrians were taking the human ship seriously now, concentrating their fire to overwhelm its defenses. Amy, can you get us close enough to the Star Killer for another railgun shot? Jake asked. Amy's hands flew over her controls. I can try, but we'll have to go right through their missile barrage. Do it. The New Dawn accelerated directly toward the oncoming missiles. It was a dangerous gamble, but it was their only chance to get close enough to the enemy destroyer for an effective attack. The ship twisted and rolled as missiles exploded around it. The hull rang like a bell as shrapnel bounced off the armor plating. The lights flickered as the shields absorbed impact after impact. Shields at 40%, Sam called out. We can't take much more of this. Almost there, Amy said through gritted teeth. Just a few more seconds. The Star Killer loomed ahead of them, its weapons charging for a point-blank shot. The alien ship was so close now that Jake could see individual weapon ports on its hull. Fire! Jake shouted the railguns. Fired again, their projectiles slamming into the Star Killer's hull before its shields could fully activate. The alien destroyer shuddered as the rounds punched through its armor and exploded inside its hull. Critical hit. Amy announced, "The Star Killer is breaking up." On the main screen, they watched the Zephyrian destroyer tear itself apart. Internal. Explosions ripped through the ship from bow to stern. Within seconds, it was nothing but expanding debris and escaping atmosphere. 2 down, 10 to go, Jake said. How are our weapons? Railguns are recharging, Sam reported. But we used up half our ammunition on those 2 ships. We need to make every shot count. The remaining Zephyrian fleet was closing in around them now. The aliens had abandoned their patrol formation and were moving to surround the human ship. Admiral Vextar was no longer underestimating his opponent. They're trying to trap us, Amy warned. If they complete that formation, we'll be surrounded. Lisa looked up from her communications console. Admiral Vextar is ordering all ships to focus fire on us. He's telling them to forget about the colony for now. We're their primary target. Jake nodded. Good. That means Haven's Rest is safe for now. The New Dawn found itself in the middle of a deadly web of alien warships. Energy beams and missiles came at them from every direction. The ship's shields flared and sparked as they absorbed the punishment. "Shields at 20%, Sam reported. "We need to get out of here, or we're finished." Jake looked at the tactical display. They were outnumbered 10 to 1, surrounded by enemies and running low on ammunition. Any sane person would have tried to escape, but Jake Miller wasn't just any person. He was a human being, and humans had a reputation for doing impossible things when their backs were against the wall. "Amy," he said, "do you remember what you learned about quantum physics in your special training?" Amy's eyes widened as more memories came flooding back. The quantum disruptor. "But Captain, that weapon is still experimental. We don't know if it will work." "We're about to find out," Jake said. "Sam, prepare to activate the quantum disruptor." Sam's hands moved over his controls. "Captain, if this thing destabilizes, it could destroy us along with them." Jake looked around at his crew. They were all afraid, but they were also determined. They had come this far, and they weren't going to give up now. "Then we better make sure it doesn't destabilize," Jake said. "Fire when ready." The 10 remaining Zephyrian ships formed a tight circle around the new dawn. Their massive hulls blocked out the stars as they closed in like the jaws of a giant trap. Energy beams and missiles poured from every direction, turning the space around the human ship into a deadly light show. Admiral Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, watching the battle with cold satisfaction. The human ship was trapped now, its shields failing under the constant barrage. Soon it would be destroyed, and he could return to his original mission of wiping out the human colony. "Continue firing," he ordered his weapons officer. "I want." That ship turned into scrap metal. But on the bridge of the new dawn, Jake Miller was far from defeated. He watched the tactical display as Sam Carter prepared the quantum disruptor for activation. The weapon was humanity's most advanced piece of technology, so secret that only a handful of people in the galaxy knew it existed. "Quantum field generators are online," Sam reported. "But Captain, I have to warn you again. This weapon works by creating tears in space-time. If something goes wrong, we could tear a hole in reality itself." Amy was working frantically at her tactical station, calculating firing solutions while the ship shook around them. The quantum disruptor needs a precise target to work properly. If I can line up the enemy ships just right, the quantum field will chain react from one to the next. "How many ships can we hit?" Jake asked. "If I do this perfectly, maybe 6 or 7, but we'll only get one shot. After that, the quantum field will be too unstable to use again." The new dawn's shields flickered and sparked as more alien weapons found their mark. The ship was taking a beating, but it was still holding together. Human engineering was tougher than the Zephyrians expected. "Shields at 15%, Sam announced. "We've got maybe 2 minutes before they fail completely." Jake looked at his crew. They were all focused on their tasks, trusting him to make the right decision. The weight of 50,000 lives on Haven's Rest rested on his shoulders, along with the lives of his 3 crew members. "Amy, do you have a firing solution?" he asked. Amy's fingers flew over her controls. "Almost there. The enemy ships are moving into a perfect line. If we fire now, the quantum field should jump from ship to ship like lightning." "Lisa, what's the alien chatter telling us?" Jake asked. Lisa pressed her earpiece closer to her ear. "Admiral Vexstar is ordering his ships to tighten the formation. He wants to make sure we can't escape." Jake smiled grimly. "He's about to regret that decision. Amy, are you ready?" "Ready, Captain." The quantum disruptor is locked onto the lid. Ship, the field should cascade through their entire formation. Jake took a deep breath. Fire. The quantum disruptor activated with a sound like reality itself being torn apart. A beam of twisted energy shot out from the new dawn, hitting the nearest Zephyrian ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien vessel began to shimmer and fade, like a mirage out the quantum field jumped to the next ship in line. Then the next. Each vessel caught in the field began to break apart at the molecular level. Their hulls dissolved like sugar in rain, their metal structures coming apart atom by atom. "It's working," Amy shouted. "The quantum field is cascading through their formation." 6 Zephyrian ships were caught in the deadly chain reaction. The aliens aboard them didn't even have time to scream before they were reduced to their component particles. The massive warships simply faded away, leaving nothing but empty space where they had been. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as half his remaining fleet vanished before his eyes. He had never seen anything like it. The human weapon had literally erased his ships from existence. What was that? He demanded of his science officer. What kind of weapon can do that? "I don't know, Admiral," the terrified officer replied. "Our sensors can't even detect how it works. It appears to manipulate space-time itself." Vextar felt fear creep into his heart for the first time in years. He had been so confident in his fleet's superiority, so sure that humans were primitive and weak. Now he was facing technology that his own scientists couldn't even understand. "All ships maintain distance from the human vessel," he ordered. "Do not let them get close enough to use that weapon again." But on the new dawn, the crew was celebrating their victory. The quantum disruptor had worked perfectly, destroying more than half of the remaining enemy fleet in a single shot. 6 ships destroyed, Amy reported. "That leaves 4, including the flagship." Sam was monitoring the weapon systems. "The quantum disruptor is offline. The field generators are burned out." "We can't use it again," Jake nodded. "That's okay. We've evened the odds enough. Lisa, what are the aliens saying now?" Lisa listened to the alien communications for a moment. "They're terrified, Captain. They've never seen anything like our quantum weapon. Admiral Vextar is trying to maintain order, but his crew is panicking." The 4 remaining Zephyrian ships had pulled back to a safe distance. They were still firing their weapons, but their shots were less accurate now. Fear had replaced confidence in their tactics. "They're being more careful now," Amy observed. "They don't want to get close enough for us to use another quantum weapon." Jake studied the tactical display. The aliens were keeping their distance, but they were still trying to wear down the new dawn's defenses. It was a war of attrition now, and the human ship was at a disadvantage. "We need to get closer to them," Jake said. "The railguns are our only remaining weapons, and they're not effective at long range." "But how do we get close without them running away?" Sam asked. Jake thought for a moment. "We make them think we're finished." "Sam, can you make our engines look like they're failing?" Sam grinned. "I can do better than that. I can make it look like our whole ship is about to explode." "Do it." Sam worked at his controls, feeding false information to the ship's external sensors. To the Zephyrians, it would look like the new dawn was critically damaged and about to suffer. "A complete system failure." "It's working," Lisa reported. "The aliens are getting excited. They think we're about to blow up." The Zephyrian ships began to move closer, wanting to watch the human vessel's destruction. Admiral Vextar was cautious, but his desire for victory overcame his fear. "Close to weapons range," Amy announced. "They're taking the bait." Jake waited until the enemy ships were almost on top of them. "Now, Sam, full power to engines and weapons." The new dawn suddenly roared back to life, its engines blazing with renewed power. The Zephyrians realized, too late, that they had been tricked. The human ship was far from finished. "Fire all railguns," Jake ordered. The remaining projectiles streaked toward the surprised alien ships. 2 of them took direct hits, their hulls cracking open like eggshells. The 3rd ship managed to avoid the worst of the damage, but it was still badly hurt. Only Admiral Vextar's flagship remained undamaged. The Dominator was the largest and most powerful ship in the fleet, armed with enough weapons to destroy a small planet. But it was also alone now, facing a human crew that refused to give up. "One ship left," Amy said, "but it's a big one." Jake looked at his crew. They were exhausted and battered, but they were still fighting. They had come so far and sacrificed so much. They weren't going to quit now. "All right, people," he said, one more time. "Let's finish this." The Dominator hung in space like a sleeping giant, its massive hull scarred but unbroken. Admiral Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the human vessel that had destroyed his entire fleet. His hands shook with rage and fear as he watched the small ship maneuver just out of weapons range. "Admiral," his weapons officer said nervously, "the human ship is still operational. Our sensors show it has weapons remaining." Vexstar's eyes burned with hatred. "Impossible. How can one primitive human ship defeat the entire third battle fleet? We are the masters of this galaxy." On the bridge of the New Dawn, Jake Miller studied a tactical display. The Zephyrian flagship was 3 times larger than any other ship they had faced. Its armor was thicker, its weapons more powerful, and its shield stronger. But it was also alone and surrounded by the wreckage of its escort ships. "That's one big ship," Sam said, looking at the sensor readings. "The Dominator has enough firepower to level a continent." Amy was running calculations on her tactical computer. "Our railguns can penetrate its armor, but we'll need to get close." "Really close?" "How close?" Jake asked. "Close enough to touch," Amy replied. "The flagship's main guns have a minimum range. If we can get inside that range, it won't be able to hit us with its heavy weapons." Lisa looked up from her communication station. "Admiral Vexstar is sending a message on all frequencies. He's calling for reinforcements from the nearest Zephyrian base." Jake felt his heart sink. "How long until they arrive?" "Maybe 2 hours," Lisa replied. "But Captain, I don't think help is coming. The other Zephyrian commanders are too scared to face us after what we did to this fleet." The New Dawn circled the massive flagship like a small predator stalking a wounded giant. The Dominator's weapons tracked the human ship, but Vexstar was being cautious. He had seen what happened to the other ships that underestimated their enemy. "We need to end this quickly," Jake said. "Sam, how much ammunition do we have left?" Sam checked his weapons display. 6 railgun rounds, that's it. "Then we'll have to make them count," Jake said. "Amy, plot a course that will take us under the flagship's hull. If we can hit the main reactor, we can finish this." Amy's fingers flew over her controls. "That's a suicide run, Captain. We'll have to fly through their entire weapons grid." "I know," Jake said quietly, "but it's the only way." The crew of the New Dawn looked at each other. They had come so far and fought so hard. Now they were being asked to risk everything on one final attack. "I'm with you, Captain," Amy said firmly. "Let's finish what we started," Sam nodded. "Those people on Haven's Rest are counting on us." "I won't let them down," Lisa smiled. "Besides, we've come too far to quit now." Jake felt a surge of pride in his crew. They were the best humanity had to offer, and they were proving it today. "All right then, Amy, take us in." The New Dawn accelerated toward the massive Zephyrian flagship. The Dominator's weapons immediately opened fire, filling space with deadly energy beams and missiles. The human ship twisted and rolled through the barrage, its pilot's skill keeping it just ahead of destruction. "Incoming fire from all sides," Amy reported through gritted teeth. "I'm doing my best, but there's so much of it." The ship shook as several energy beams found their mark. The hull armor glowed red-hot where the alien weapons struck. Warning alarms blared throughout the bridge as systems began to fail. Shields are gone, Sam announced. We're running on armor alone now. Keep going, Jake ordered. We're almost there. The New Dawn dove toward the Dominator's hull like a missile. The flagship's point defense guns swiveled to track the small ship, but it was moving too fast and too unpredictably for them to get a clean shot. There! Amy shouted, pointing at the tactical display. The main reactor. I can see the thermal exhaust port. Jake looked at the target. It was a small opening in the flagship's hull, barely larger than the New Dawn itself. Hitting it would require perfect accuracy and incredible luck. Can you make the shot? Jake asked. I'll have to, Amy replied. Sam, I need all remaining power to the targeting systems. Sam's hands flew over his controls. You've got it. Everything we have left is going to weapons and targeting. The New Dawn streaked along the Dominator's hull, so close that they could see individual armor plates and weapon emplacements. The ship's railguns swiveled to track the thermal exhaust port as they approached. Almost in range, Amy said. Just a few more seconds. Admiral Vextar realized what the humans were trying to do. All weapons, concentrate fire on that ship. Don't let it reach the reactor. The Dominator's entire weapons grid opened fire at once. Energy beams and missiles converged on the New Dawn from every direction. The small ship disappeared in a blaze of explosions and energy. For a moment, it looked like the human ship had been destroyed. Then it burst out of the fireball, damaged but still flying. Pieces of its hull were missing, and one of its engines was trailing smoke, but it was still moving toward its target. Now, Jake shouted, fire everything. The New Dawn's remaining railgun rounds fired in rapid succession. 6 projectiles streaked toward the thermal exhaust port at 15% of light speed. The first 2 missed by inches their passage, creating spectacular sparks as they scraped against the flagship's armor. The third round found its mark. The projectile punched through the exhaust port and into the Dominator's main reactor. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the fusion containment field began to destabilize. Direct hit, Amy announced. The reactor is going critical. Admiral Vextar felt his ship shudder as the reactor began to tear itself apart. Alarms screamed throughout the flagship as radiation. Levels spiked and power systems failed. Abandon ship, he ordered, but it was too late. The Dominator's reactor exploded with the force of a small star. The massive flagship was torn apart from the inside out, its hull cracking like an eggshell. Within seconds, the pride of the Zephyrian fleet was nothing but expanding debris and superheated gas. The New Dawn was caught in the edge of the explosion. The ship tumbled through space, its remaining systems failing one by one. On the bridge, the crew held on as their ship was battered by the shock wave. Hull breach on Deck 3, Sam reported. Life support is failing. We need to get to the escape pods. But Jake was staring at the tactical display with satisfaction. Look, he said quietly. On the screen, they could see the planet Haven's Rest in the distance. The colony was safe. 50,000 innocent people would live to see another day because 4 humans in a disguised cargo ship had refused to back down. We did it, Amy said in amazement. We actually did it. Lisa was listening to radio transmissions from the colony. They saw the explosion. They know something happened, but they don't know what. Let them think it was an accident, Jake said. The fewer people who know about the Trojan Horse program, the better. The New Dawn limped toward Haven's Rest, its engines barely functioning. But it was alive, and so was its crew. They had faced impossible odds and won through courage, skill, and the refusal to give up. News of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. The complete destruction of the Zephyrian Third Battle Fleet sent shock waves through the alien military. Other species began to look at human vessels with new respect and fear. The Zephyrian, Dominion quietly canceled its expansion plans into human space. They had learned a hard lesson about underestimating their enemies. Humanity was not the weak, primitive species they had believed. On Earth, Jake Miller and his crew were quietly honored for their actions. They received new assignments and new disguised ships, ready to continue protecting human colonies throughout the galaxy. The Trojan Horse program expanded, placing more hidden weapons platforms among the merchant fleets. The galaxy had learned that any human ship, no matter how humble it appeared, might be hiding the fury of an entire species that refused to be conquered. And in the darkness between the stars, other alien races whispered warnings to each other. Never ignore a human vessel. You never know what might be hiding beneath its simple exterior. The age of underestimating humanity was over. The new dawn had seen to that.